Throughout its history, the Supreme Court has sided with its co-partners in the federal government more times than it has the states. Relying on the Supreme Court to be an impartial player in intergovernmental disputes is like relying on your ex's mother to be your mediator in your divorce settlement. The Supreme Court has been missing in action for generations, and both Congress and executive are only too happy about this. But let's get back to the 10th. What are those words that not only Mr. Moore, but most in the federal government find to be irrelevant today? The 10th Amendment, also known as the States' Rights Amendment, says very simply, the powers not delegated to the United States nor by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Very simple words. And simple words mean just this. If it is not in the enumerated powers of the United States Constitution, the United States government is not empowered to legislate it. There is nothing in the United States Constitution that authorizes the New Deal, the Great Society, or nationalized health care, or any other fiscal and civil dishonesty that is being perpetrated upon the people. When the revisionist historians talk about the all-encompassing power of the United States, there should be two flags that go up immediately. First, we should remember that after the Revolution, the states were as free and independent from each other as they were from the British. And those men that gave us that independence were not about to give it away to a government that would impose its will upon them in all matters. Second, at the first Constitutional Convention, there was a proposal called the Virginia Plan, and the Virginia Plan gave the federal government the right to negate or veto the actions of state legislatures. It was soundly defeated. I ask you, does that sound like a historical basis to give the United States government free and total reign over the states? Absolutely not. In fact, writing in Federalist number 46, Madison addressed state sovereignty and states' rights, and he went so far to even theorize that if the federal government would encroach too greatly upon the states, that they would rebel not individually, but as a group. And then within that group, they could also possibly use the same force with which they rebelled against Great Britain. Again, historically speaking, all-encompassing power to the federal government has never been in our nation's DNA. One thing that Madison did not offer in Federalist 46, though, was the guarantee of a Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights would be written at the insistence of a group today we call the Anti-Federalists. And the Anti-Federalists are people whose position at the 10th Amendment Center we support. And if as Mr. Moore says we are historically challenged, then we feel we're in good company, because that company includes George Mason, Elbridge Gerry, Patrick Henry, Richard Henry Lee, George Clinton, James Monroe, and someone else he possibly never heard of, Thomas Jefferson. Their insistence on what would become the Bill of Rights included this pesky 10th Amendment, written specifically to chain down this new limited powers agent. I say again, limited powers agent to those powers the states carefully, jealously, and agonizingly relinquish to it. And are we any wrong today in this period of history to return to limited federal government? No, not at all. Not only is it wrong, it isn't extremist, it's our obligation. It's our obligation as citizens, and it's our obligation as a people who are the first line of response in the defense of our own liberty. Our opponents seek to assign hatred to our words. They seek to discredit our attempts to return the states to their proper check and balance position on federal power. But neither history or current events legitimizes this. The truth is that the demand for state sovereignty was expressed emphatically in both northern and southern state conventions. On February 6, 1788, Massachusetts, the sixth state to ratify the proposed Constitution, was the first state to formally request amendments to the document. And their request went in part First, that it be explicitly declared that all powers not expressly delegated by the aforesaid Constitution are reserved to the several states to be by them exercised. Rhode Island, an original New England state, insisted at its ratification convention that the United States shall guarantee to each its sovereignty, freedom, and every power, jurisdiction, and right by which is not by this Constitution expressly delegated to the United States. And in Virginia, they demanded the powers granted under the Constitution being derived from the people of the United States be resumed by them whensoever these same powers shall be perverted to their injury or oppression, and that every power not granted thereby remains with them and at their will. Remains with who? With you and at your will. Friends, have you ever known a period in your life where the federal government has abused its power to the pointed result of your injury and oppression? Never in my lifetime. I've not seen it. Did you ever think that you would be threatened in the United States of America with fines or imprisonment because you did not want to participate in national health care? No, not in our America. But have we become so comfortable with the illusion of freedom that we will ignore the intolerable act of 16,000 additional armed federal agents enforcing punishment on us for not buying health insurance? The correct term for nullification is state interposition. When the central government legislates outside of its enumerated powers, the state government is obliged to interpose, to place itself in between its citizens and that unlawful legislation to protect the rights of those citizens. Nullification, A, is not secession, and B, it is not totally Southern in its origin. The concept was first thought of as part of the right of the state self-defense. In notes on the debates of the convention, what Madison wrote at night, he quotes Connecticut Yankee, that's right, Connecticut Yankee, Dr. William Samuel Johnson, who asked, "Does it not seem to follow that if the states as such are to exist, they must be armed with some power of self-defense?" His fellow Connecticut Yankee, Oliver Ellsworth, also asked, "The U.S. are sovereign on their side of the line dividing jurisdictions. The states on the other. Each ought to have the power to demand their respective sovereignties." These are from New Englanders. From New York, Mr. Williams asked, "Are not the terms common defense and general welfare indefinite, undefinable terms? What checks have the state governments against such encroachments?" That check was the 10th Amendment. And in support of states' rights, in an amendment, no less a New England Yankee hero than Sam Adams wrote to his friend, Virginian Richard Henry Lee. He said, "I mean, my friend, to let you know how deeply I am impressed with a sense of the importance of these amendments. The idea of states' rights and the defense of same are as old as our revolution, and they are not the sole franchise of any one geographical region. The adherence to states' rights and state sovereignty threatens no one. It threatens no one except those enemies of individualism, limited taxation, and liberty." In writing the Kentucky resolutions in 1798, as proposed interposition legislation against the Alien and Sedition Acts, Jefferson asserted that whensoever the general government assumes undelegated powers, its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. They are illegitimate, and they should not be obeyed.